You know, I used to think if I tried hard enough, if I became quiet enough, helpful enough, invisible enough, they'd finally notice me. Turns out invisibility doesn't get you applause. It just makes you easier to ignore. The night my sister, Chloe, received the keys to her new home, a colonial-style place with a wraparound porch and a perfectly trimmed lawn, I was asked to bring the camera. Not because I was good with angles, but because I wasn't in the picture. "Hey Noah, could you take a few shots of us by the sign?" That was Mum's voice, cheerful as ever, like we were capturing history. I nodded and obeyed. I always did. In my hand, a cupcake, no candles. Just a smudge of pink frosting that looked as tired as I felt. They clinked glasses of champagne while I adjusted the zoom. Dad kept calling Chloe our pride and joy, and I started wondering if I was a guest in my own family or just a server who forgot he didn't get tipped. This wasn't a new pattern. Chloe had always been the golden child, straight as, lead in school plays, full scholarship. The girl who made other moms envious and other dads nod in approval. Me, I was the space between her moments, the blurry figure in the background of her graduation photos. I remember my own 16th birthday barely. Chloe got a white convertible for hers. I got a second-hand bicycle with one brake and a chain that squeaked like it had asthma. Dad said, "It builds character." Sure, and maybe mold builds resilience too if you breathe it long enough. We lived in Maple Creek, a quiet suburb in Colorado, where neighbors held block parties and sent each other cookie tins during the holidays. Our house was beige. Our fence was white. The lawn sign said "Family is forever," but the sentiment was as plastic as the letters on it. Inside, Mom tried Pinterest recipes she'd never taste test. Dad grilled on weekends when Chloe's friends came over. I was usually setting the table, or cleaning up, or missing from the story entirely. Every time I passed the family wall in the living room, I saw her Chloe smiling next to her new car. Chloe at prom, Chloe in a cap and gown. Me, I was in a few of them, out of focus, cropped on the edge. The proof of my own erasure, framed in silver. And still I waited for a pat on the back, a "we're proud of you too." For something more than a cupcake with no candle. But what I got instead was a lottery ticket. One of those $3 scratch-offs you grab near the convenience store register, the kind you give as a joke, except the punchline was me. I didn't scratch the ticket right away. It sat there on my kitchen table, wedged between a pack of expired ramen and an unpaid electric bill. My apartment smelled like old coffee grounds and cracked radiator heat. The windows groaned in the wind like they were mourning something they couldn't name. Sometimes I thought they were mourning me. I lived on the 3rd floor of a building that should have been condemned 5 years ago. My only consistent companion was a one-eyed stray cat I'd named Mona, because she looked at me like she knew all my secrets and still chose to stay, which made her a better family member than most. The lottery ticket, graduation gift. Chloe got a mortgage-free home. I got a glossy rectangle of chance and sarcasm. We thought this would be fun, Mum had said. Dad chimed in, "Who knows? You might win big." I remember the silence afterward. Not even a chuckle, just my voice saying, "So this is it, huh?" And their faces didn't say yes, but they didn't say no either. I walked home from that dinner like a man who had just been told his life's worth could be quantified $3, plus tax. For weeks, I didn't touch it, because what if I lost? Losing would mean they were right, that I was just extra. A name on a mail list they couldn't quite unsubscribe from. Someone who was easier to ignore than to support. So I let the ticket stay where it was, untouched, unclaimed, like the rest of my potential. During the day, I worked in digital marketing. writing ad copy for vacuum cleaners and teeth whitening gels. At night, I cleaned counters at a 24-hour bakery where customers barely glanced at me unless they wanted free frosting. I got good at being background, at smiling when no one saw. People asked why I still talked to my parents, why I didn't just disappear. And truthfully, I didn't know. Maybe some part of me, a stubborn little ember that refused to go out, still hoped my mum would knock one day, hand me a real gift and say, "I see you now, Noah. I'm sorry we didn't before." That ember died a little more every time I got a forwarded email from her. "Why gratitude matters, 10 signs your too sensitive family is forever delete TT trash archive." I stopped replying. But I couldn't quite let go. The ticket stayed. One night, I came home after a double shift. Mona was curled on the windowsill, like a warm, breathing comma in my otherwise unfinished sentence. I microwaved leftover noodles, stared at the pale walls, and wondered if this was it. Then I saw the ticket again, still silver, still unscratched, still waiting. I held it in my hand, its weight far heavier than paper, and for the first time I wondered, what if it wasn't a joke? What if by some ridiculous twist of fate, it was the one time in my life the universe whispered, "It's your turn now?" Saturday, grey sky, no birds, no plans, just a shift at the bakery that smelled like burnt sugar and regret. I got home late. My apron was crusted with frosting, my hands smelled like bleach, and my spine felt like it had aged 10 years in one shift. Mona greeted me with her usual slow blink, the kind that said, "You survived again. Impressive." I fed her, then myself. Dry cat food for her. Discount boxed noodles and flat soda for me. That's when I saw it again, the ticket. Still unscathed. Still shining under the flickering kitchen light like it was trying to be dramatic. Maybe it was time. Not because I believed in luck, but because I was tired of carrying what-ifs in my back pocket like unpaid rent. I took out my phone, hands trembling in a way that had nothing to do with caffeine withdrawal. 6 numbers, printed small on a fading slip. Like a dare. I opened the official Colorado State Lottery website and typed them in: 8, 15, 27, 34, 42, 56. Click. Wait. Hold breath. The screen refreshed. Congratulations. You've won the jackpot. $195 million. I didn't scream. I didn't fall to my knees or call anyone. I just stared, then laughed. Not a joyful laugh, not even bitter, just unhinged. Like air escaping a balloon no one remembered inflating. I sat down on the floor, back against the cabinet, hands shaking as if they were trying to process what the brain refused to. Mona hopped into my lap and blinked again. She didn't care. Cats don't recognize wealth. But I did, and I also recognized something else. I couldn't tell a soul. Not my mother, not my sister, especially not my sister. If Chloe ever found out, she'd show up in a white dress, expecting me to build her a second wedding just because the first one wasn't aesthetic enough. Dad would try to advise me with poorly disguised requests for a new fishing boat or help with Chloe's future baby nursery. Mum would suddenly remember my birthday. So I didn't tell them. Instead, I found a financial advisor, online one with 5-star reviews, a no-nonsense haircut, and an office that didn't look like a front for a pyramid scheme. His name was Peter Landry. When I walked into his office 2 days later, I still hadn't slept. Peter didn't flinch. He'd seen this before. People who thought money would heal them, only to realize it merely exposed every scar they tried to hide. First thing he said, "Don't tell anyone." Second, "We'll create an LLC. You'll claim the winnings through it, anonymously." Third, after taxes, You'll take home roughly $125 million. I blinked. A number I couldn't visualize. A number too large for someone who used to count nickels before ordering takeout. Peter helped me set up accounts I never knew existed. Diversified holdings, trust structures, tax shelters, real estate shell companies, all while repeating, no luxury spending for 6 months. You need time to adjust. Your nervous system needs time to catch up. He was right. I started small, paid off my student loans in 1 click, left the bakery without a word, but left a $5,000 stip in an envelope labelled for kindness when it wasn't required. Bought a modest black Audi, sleek, quiet, unassuming. The kind of car you notice only if you understand elegance without ego. Moved out of my mould-ridden apartment and into a quiet cottage on the edge of town, white walls, a lavender garden, sunrises that didn't feel like judgment. I didn't throw a party, didn't post a single photo, didn't even change my wardrobe, just bought jeans that didn't tear when I exhaled. I still woke up at 6:00 a.m., still fed Mona before myself, still sat at my laptop to write ad campaigns for clients who didn't know I could now buy their entire building. No one knew, and that made it mine. Every time Chloe texted, "Hey, can you help me repaint the guest room this weekend?" Or "Jason and I are hosting a brunch. Can you pick up mimosas on the way?" I'd look at the message, then lock my phone and step outside into the morning light. No reply, no lie, just absence. Not silence from pain, but silence from peace. That was my real win, not the money. The choice, the space, the stillness. I could finally breathe without asking permission. It started with a Facebook post. A friend from my old college days posted a casual snapshot outside a cafe in West Hollow. I happened to be in the background, holding a coffee, sunglasses on, leaning against my new Audi. No caption. No tags. No attention-seeking pose. But algorithms are nosy. And so is my mother. 3 days later, my phone rang. "Mom, Noah, you didn't tell me you moved, or that you got a new car. We're so proud of how far you've come." I almost choked on my coffee. Her voice was syrupy, too sweet for sincerity, the kind of tone people use when they're fishing. Not for news, for leverage. I said something vague, something forgettable. Then she hit me with it. "We're throwing an engagement party for Chloe and Jason next Sunday. You'll be there, right?" Of course I would. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to see what role they'd cast me in this time. The party was at a downtown bistro. The kind I used to stare into through foggy glass on my walk home from work, wondering what it felt like to sit inside, not serve. This time I walked in wearing a tailored charcoal jacket, second-hand but fitted like it was made for me. Shoes polished, hair neat, presence controlled. No one noticed. Not at first. Everyone was too busy orbiting around Chloe, who wore a pearl-white jumpsuit and a smile that could melt ice or freeze it, depending on who she was talking to. Jason hovered next to her like a decorative accessory. Champagne sparkled in every flute. Laughter floated in curated waves. I found a quiet corner and sat with a glass of water, the default drink for people no one offers anything better. Conversations echoed around me. "Chloe's so lucky. They're covering everything. Even the honeymoon. Can you believe it? The Maldives." The first sipped and swallowed the sting in my throat. Not envy, just memory. I remembered my graduation dinner microwaved lasagna. 1 envelope, no cake. I remembered asking for help with loans and being told, "You're strong. You'll figure it out." Apparently, Chloe was delicate china. I was a cast iron skillet. The difference, china gets shelves, cast iron gets stored until needed. I tried to leave early, but Mum intercepted me by the dessert table. Noah, why were you hiding? I barely saw you all night. I smiled. Didn't want to take the spotlight. She laughed awkwardly. So, what do you think of everything? Beautiful, right? Very Chloe, I replied. And let the silence after that sentence say the rest. She hesitated. Then, like clockwork, you should be happy for her. She's worked hard. She deserves all of this. And I tilted my head. What about me? She blinked, confused. Like the question hadn't been pre-approved. When I graduated, no one threw a party. You gave me a scratch ticket and a shrug. Mum chuckled nervously. We were tight on money back then. But you're independent. You didn't need the extras. No, I just needed to matter. I got the real ask 2 dinners later. This time, they made steak. Jason poured wine. Chloe wore her I'm so grateful smile. Somewhere between salad and the main course, Chloe slid a folder across the table. Neatly typed, colour-coded floor plans, construction estimates. A $78,000 renovation to add a yoga room and extend the garage. And a note at the bottom, if possible, please add $22,000 to help cover the wedding budget. Jason leaned back in his chair. It's a great investment. More space for family, Mum chimed in. You're doing well these days. We just thought. I looked at them, then down at the papers. So this was it. The moment they'd stopped pretending, the masks slipped. They didn't want to reconcile. They wanted Roy. I folded the folder slowly, deliberately. Then I said, you gave me $3 on the day I became the first person in our family to graduate college. Chloe got a house, a car, a honeymoon, a diamond-studded engagement party. Mum opened her mouth. I raised a hand. You told me to try harder. You called me independent because you left me no choice. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your walking ATM. I'm not your excuse to feel generous. Chloe started to say something, but it wasn't even worth hearing. As I grabbed my coat, Jason said, You know, Noah, family shares. That's what love is. I turned, calm as ever. No one's stopping you from working harder, Jason. On the drive home, I rolled down the windows. The night air was sharp. It smelled like pine and freedom. I wasn't angry, not even sad, just done. For the first time in my life, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I wasn't walking out in defiance. I was walking out in dignity. Because silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the sound of someone finally choosing themselves. After that dinner, I blocked them all, not in rage, not as punishment, but as a reset. I blocked Mum's number, Chloe's, Dad's, every one of them. Even the burner line Dad used once to check in. They were no longer entitled to space in my pocket or my head. I moved again, quietly. No real estate agents, no open house signs, no social media hints, just a sleek black gate, a modest rose garden, and a house on the edge of the northern ridge. It wasn't flashy, but it had a reading room that glowed in the afternoon sun, a kitchen that smelled like fresh espresso, and silence I didn't have to earn. I woke up when I wanted. I answered to no one. I listened to jazz. I grew tomatoes. I played piano badly, just for me. It felt like breathing in a language I didn't know I spoke. Noah, the second child, the forgotten one, the errand boy, didn't live here. This was home to someone else now, someone free. The first time I saw Chloe again, it wasn't planned. I was at a small cafe downtown, laptop open, earbuds in, mind somewhere between a client pitch and a poem I hadn't finished writing. The espresso was smooth. The air smelled like rain. And then, Noah? I looked up. She looked tired. Chloe, without the gloss, without the spotlight. Wrinkled blazer, hollow eyes, hair pulled back like she'd just barely made it to the mirror. There was something missing from her face, certainty. She sat without asking. I didn't stop her. I just didn't say hello. I heard you've been doing well, she said. Not warmly, not bitterly, just cautiously. I nodded. People are saying you won the lottery. I didn't confirm. I didn't deny. They say you're rich now, living in some fancy place, driving that Audi. She studied me like I was an equation she forgot how to solve. Don't you think, she continued, you should share it with family? I closed my laptop. Slowly, deliberately. You mean the family that gave me a $3 ticket and told me to work harder? She had no answer, just silence. And then she tried one last shot. You just got lucky, Noah. That's not something to be proud of. I smiled. Not smugly, not cruelly, just enough. Maybe I did get lucky with the numbers, I said, but not with how I lived before them. I leaned forward. Everything after that ticket, every dollar I kept, every boundary I built, every time I didn't respond to guilt, I earned that. No one taught me how to survive while you got centerpieces and scholarships. She blinked. I stood up. You don't get to rewrite me now. You already wrote me out. Then I left. And she didn't follow. There was no grand confrontation, no public breakdown, no screaming match. Just a slow fade, a gentle erasure, like salt dissolving in water. They tried to reach out a few times after that. Mom sent an email, families drift. But they always come back. Dad left a voicemail. It's been long enough, son. Don't you miss us? Jason sent a request on Venmo labelled, for the garage? I blocked them all again. One by one, quietly, permanently. Because the truth is, I wasn't angry anymore, just uninterested. Their version of family came with price tags and prerequisites. Mine came with solitude and the ability to say no without guilt, without grief. And that word, no, it saved me. That fall, I travelled to Kyoto, walked under red maple trees and sipped matcha on temple steps. In winter, I went skiing in Banff. In spring, I took a woodworking class in Oregon. And in summer, I stayed home, grew lavender. Watched bees work like they weren't being watched. I started a blog anonymous, quiet about reclaiming identity after family erasure. Not to go viral, not to be praised, just to breathe in text. To write the stories I couldn't say out loud, strangers wrote back, saying things like, I thought it was just me. I've never felt so seen. You gave my silence words. Funny how healing doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it knocks softly. Sometimes it never knocks at all. You just realise the door's already open. And every now and then, when I water the tomatoes or pour my morning coffee, I think of that lottery ticket. Not with gratitude, not with hate, just acknowledgement. It didn't change me. It gave me a key. But I was the one who walked out the door. And I never looked back. Final note, this isn't a story about revenge. It's about refusal, refusing to shrink, refusing to beg, refusing to believe that love must come with conditions. This is the story of someone who didn't scream to be heard. He simply stopped whispering. And in that silence, he found the only thing that ever truly mattered, his own voice. Story 2. I was the last to arrive at the attorney's office that morning. Everyone else was already seated, my mum, dad, my older sister Alyssa, and my little brother Darren, who barely glanced up from his phone. The room smelled like stale coffee and tension. I wasn't expecting much from the reading of my grandfather's will, but I thought maybe something. a family watch, a handwritten note, closure. Instead, I got a $1 bill. The attorney said it straight-faced, but even he paused awkwardly before sliding the envelope toward me. To Emily, he read, $1. No one said a word. Alyssa smiled. My mother looked down at her lap like she hadn't known. My father gave a tight-lipped nod, as if confirming it was all very reasonable. And Darren? He snorted. Don't spend it all in one place, he said, chuckling like he was the next Dave Chappelle. I stared at the bill, crisp and lonely inside that white envelope, and I felt the heat rising in my chest. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded, tucked the dollar into my bag, and walked out. The truth is, I wasn't shocked. My grandfather Harold never liked me. He didn't scream or belittle me. He just dismissed me in that quiet, patronizing way people do when they've already decided who you are. Alyssa? She played the golden girl role flawlessly, always agreeing with him, always ready with a compliment. I, on the other hand, had questions. I challenged things. I didn't say yes, Grandpa, to every outdated opinion he treated like gospel. There was a Christmas when I was 10. Alyssa got a giant stuffed bear and a brand new camera. I got a thrifted encyclopedia set. Smart girls read, he said. Like that should make up for the fact that I was invisible to him. When she turned 18, he gave her a new car. When I hit 18, he gave me a warning to be realistic about my goals. And now, $1, a final mic drop from beyond the grave. After the reading, no one called to check in. No, how are you holding up, or want to talk about it. It was like the whole thing never happened, as if being the only one cut out of the family legacy didn't matter. I went back to my 350-square-foot studio and tossed the envelope on my table. Then I sat on my lumpy futon, stared at the ceiling, and did what I always do when the world laughs in my face. I took notes. Because if you can't afford therapy, revenge starts with data. I was broke, jobless, and barely holding things together. The inheritance or lack thereof was just the cherry on top of a life that already felt like it was circling the drain. So I did the only thing I could do. I got to work. The job search and the death of my pride. You ever apply for so many jobs in one day that you start forgetting your own name? That was me. Coffee shops, retail stores, temp agencies. I didn't care. If it paid rent and kept my phone on, I was interested. I finally got a call back from this hipster-looking cafe in a gentrified part of town. The manager, a guy named Felix with ironic glasses and a beanie, offered me a trial shift. 10 hours on my feet for $9 an hour. No benefits, no thanks. But also, yes, I needed it. That first shift nearly broke me. Every customer seemed like they walked straight out of a tech startup's marketing campaign. Sharp suits, louder watches, and louder opinions. If your startup isn't clearing 6 figures, what are you even doing? One guy said, sipping his oat milk latte like it was liquid diamonds. I smiled and nodded as I wiped down their table, but inside I was screaming. These people had money, ideas, and time. Me? I had calluses and debt. That night, I lay on my bed, still in uniform, still sticky from steamed milk, and opened my laptop. I typed how to start a business with no money into Google. That search became a rabbit hole. I devoured every Reddit thread, every YouTube video, every blog post written by someone who had turned a side hustle into a full-time gig. Then I stumbled across the idea of flipping second-hand items. Low cost, quick turnaround. I figured, why not? I listed a few things from my apartment: a dusty lamp, a jacket I never wore, a pair of boots that didn't fit. Nothing happened for 3 days. Then finally, is this still available? My heart jumped. I sold that lamp for $25. Was it life-changing? No, but it was mine. Money I made without begging for hours or pretending to care about someone's coffee order. The next day, I hit up a flea market, bought a worn leather bag for $10, cleaned it, photographed it, sold it for $45. I was hooked. Every item became a challenge: how to buy it cheap, fix it up, and sell it for a profit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. In 2 months, I made $11,000. It wasn't enough to retire, but it was enough to breathe. Enough to stop living paycheck to paycheck and start living with a plan. From side hustle to scalable machine. But success has a price, and in my case, it was burnout. I was working 14-hour days. Sourcing, cleaning, photographing, listing, shipping, answering questions, dealing with returns, getting ghosted by buyers. Rinse, repeat. I'd stare at screens so long my vision would blur. My back ached, my brain never shut off, and I hadn't seen my friends in months. I had a choice: scale or crash. So, I hired help. First came Mia. She was a natural at handling customer messages, patient, friendly, smart. Then Jordan, who streamlined our shipping and turned my living room into a fulfillment center. I brought on Lisa for product photography, and finally Marcus, who had a background in e-commerce and helped set up our own storefront. With a team behind me, everything changed. Revenue doubled, then tripled. Our online store started pulling in over $30,000 a month. That's when I knew it was time to go brick and mortar. I found a space downtown. It wasn't big, but it had charm: exposed brick, big windows, foot traffic. I signed the lease with shaking hands and put $50K into renovations. My entire savings, all in. Opening day, I expected crickets. Instead, we had a line out the door. We hit $8,000 in sales on day one. I stood behind the counter that night after closing, staring at our chalkboard wall where customers left little notes: "Love this place." Finally, something cool in this neighborhood. Inspiring AF. I thought about my grandfather, about that $1. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt something else: power. A few months after the store opened, I got a message from my mum. I hadn't spoken to her since the will reading. "Emily, sweetheart, I saw the article about your business in Metro Woman. So proud of you. We should have dinner, just the family." Funny how the family starts calling when your name shows up in the press. I didn't respond right away. I needed to think. Not because I missed them, but because I was curious. What did they want now? 2 days later, Alyssa reached out. "OMGM, your store looks amazing. I always knew you'd go far. Can we meet up soon?" "I have an idea you might love. The same sister who watched me walk out of that law office with a single dollar and didn't say a word, the one who smirked and said, 'Well, $1's still money.'" "Sure, Alyssa, let's meet up. I'm dying to hear your idea." And then, like clockwork, Darren called. This was the guy who laughed the loudest during the will reading. He had a new tone now. "Hey, heard your business is growing like crazy. That's awesome. Actually, I know an investor who might be interested in helping you scale. We should talk." "Ah, yes." Suddenly, we're siblings again. Suddenly, Darren's got connections. I ignored the calls at first. Let them stew. Let them wonder if I was too busy to care which I was. But curiosity got the better of me, and when Mom invited me over for dinner a second time, I accepted. I wanted to see how far they'd go. The dinner trap, I walked into their house like a stranger walking onto an old movie set. Same furniture, same fake smiles. Alyssa hugged me like we were besties. Darren poured wine like he was hosting Shark Tank. Even Dad, the man of few words, shook my hand with this weird, proud papa energy. I almost laughed. Dinner was served. Mum started in with the small talk. Alyssa leaned in with her business proposal. We've all been talking, she said, setting down her glass. Your business is doing great, and we think it's time to turn it into a family venture. She actually used air quotes. Dad nodded like this was all perfectly reasonable. Darren passed a folder across the table. We had a lawyer draw this up. It's just a formalization structure, you know. Inside, a breakdown of the proposed ownership. Me, 40%. Them, 60%. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Out loud. Big, echoing, ugly laugh. You think I built a 6-figure business from $1, just to give away the majority to the people who left me for dead? Emily, Mum said, her voice tight. Don't be dramatic. Alyssa leaned in. We're just thinking about the long term. You can't do this alone forever. Right, I said. Because when I was cleaning espresso machines for minimum wage, you were all so worried about my long term. Darren rolled his eyes. This is why Grandpa didn't trust you with the money. You're impulsive. No, I said, calm now. I'm independent, and that scares you. Dad cleared his throat. Sweetheart, let's not turn this into a fight. Oh, I'm not fighting, I said, pushing the folder back toward them. I'm just saying no. And just like that, I got up, grabbed my coat and walked out. They sat there, stunned. They expected me to fold, but I didn't need them anymore, and that terrified them. The second play, emotional blackmail, they didn't stop. A week later, Mum showed up at my store. No call, no warning. Just walked in like she owned the place, waving like we were best friends. Emily, she said, her voice syrupy, I just want us to be close again. I folded my arms. What do you want, Mum? She blinked. I'm your mother. Do I need a reason to visit? You do now. She paused, like she didn't expect that. Then she sighed. We've been thinking. Maybe it's time you came back to the family. We're stronger together. I stared at her. You mean now that I'm successful, I get to be family again? Sweetheart, don't see it that way, she said. We all make mistakes. You didn't make a mistake, I said. You made a choice. All of you did, she sniffed. You've become so cold. No, I said. I just finally stopped begging to be included. Then came the guilt trip. We raised you. We gave you everything. You gave Alyssa everything. You gave Darren everything. Me? You gave me a dictionary and $1. She left after that. But I knew it wasn't over. The final play, Dirty Business 2 weeks later, my lawyer called me in a panic. They're trying to register a business under a name nearly identical to yours. Same branding, same slogan. It's blatant. My stomach dropped. So this was the plan. If they couldn't own my business, they'd create a knockoff to confuse my customers, undercut me, damage my reputation. I filed for emergency injunctions, trademark paperwork, cease and desist letters. I wasn't going down without a fight. Then I called Alyssa. She picked up like nothing was wrong. Hey, Em, long time. Cut the crap, I said. You're stealing my name. It's not your name. Legally, she said. We just wanted to start something similar. There's room for all of us in this space. No, I said. There's room for people who do the work, not vultures waiting to swoop in once the feast is set. Wow, she said. You've really changed. No, I said. I finally became the person you were all afraid I'd turn into someone who doesn't need you. Click. The collapse begins. By the time the legal dust settled, I had blocked their knockoff business, sued for trademark infringement, and sent warning letters to the bank they tried to use. They couldn't get a loan. They couldn't register the name. They couldn't even get a business email domain without hitting my copyright. And then came the best part. The money was gone. Turns out the inheritance hadn't gone far. Alyssa had been burning through it on luxury vacations and bad investments. Darren, crypto and networking retreats. My parents? 2 failed rental properties and a new boat they never figured out how to dock. Now, they were hemorrhaging cash. Their big idea was supposed to save them, my business, my work, my $1 miracle. But it was never theirs to take. Months passed. I poured everything into my business, my real family now. My team, my customers, the community that cheered me on when nobody else did. We opened a second store, then a third. I didn't hear from my birth family after the lawsuits. Not a text, not a call, nothing. Until one cold morning, I stopped into this little cafe near my second store. I needed something warm, something quiet before another long day. And there she was, Alyssa, sitting in the back with a lawyer. She looked thinner. Makeup couldn't hide the stress carved into her face. Her voice carried across the room, low and urgent. Papers scattered on the table. I saw the bold letters on top of the stack. Foreclosure notice. I ordered my coffee and walked straight to her table. She looked up and froze, like she'd seen a ghost. I smiled, easy and calm. "Hey, Alyssa." Her mouth opened. "Closed. Emily, what are you having coffee? You?" She didn't answer. I glanced at the paperwork again. "Looks like the inheritance didn't stretch as far as you thought." Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Alyssa clenched her jaw. "This isn't your business." It was. "You tried to make it yours, remember?" I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I leaned in. "Funny, isn't it? You all laughed when I was given a single $1. And now here you are with nothing." I didn't wait for her reply. I just walked away. Reckoning doesn't always come loud. I didn't dance when they fell, didn't post a victory speech or pop champagne. That's not who I am. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something when the truth finally caught up to them. It wasn't joy. It wasn't even revenge. It was peace. Because now they couldn't rewrite the story. No one could say I was lucky. No one could say I owed them anything. They left me with $1 and a smirk. And I turned that into something they couldn't touch. Comments, closure, and complicated feelings. When I first shared my story online, I didn't expect it to blow up. I thought maybe a few people would read it, relate, maybe even message me about their own messed up families. Instead, thousands of people responded. Some cheered me on. Others called me heartless, said I was bitter, said family is family. Let me say this: family isn't just blood. Family is who shows up, who listens, who lifts you up when you're face down in the dirt. My birth family? They left me when I had nothing, ignored my pain, laughed at my struggle, and only came back when I became useful. So no, I don't feel bad for drawing the line. I don't feel bad for choosing myself. Am I still angry? Sometimes. There are nights I wake up thinking about it. Not the money, not even the betrayal. Just the quiet moments the birthdays ignored, the pride they showed for everyone but me. I remember the little girl who tried so hard to be seen, who thought if she got straight A's they'd finally care, who stayed quiet at dinner because her opinions always led to eye rolls. I still carry her with me, but I'm not her anymore. I'm the woman who built an empire from nothing, who learned to stand on her own, who stopped waiting to be chosen and started choosing herself. The final word my lawyer called last week. The lawsuits are officially closed. My trademarks are protected. Their attempts to copy me are legally dead in the water. The best part? My business now helps other women start theirs. We run free workshops, we mentor young sellers, we give microloans to new entrepreneurs from underfunded communities. That $1? It was never about the money. It was about power. About being told you are worth exactly nothing and proving them wrong. And if they ever ask me again, if they ever knock on my door one day, desperate, broken, needing help, I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll offer them a seat. Maybe I'll hear them out. Or maybe I'll open my wallet, slide a crisp dollar across the table, and smile. Don't spend it all in one place. And just like that, I'll walk away, peaceful, whole. Because in the end, the only inheritance I ever needed was my own damn grit. Story 3. You know how some betrayals feel so absurd, they'd make more sense as a Netflix drama than your actual life. That's what this has been, except I didn't get paid to live it. I'm Natalie. I'm 46 now, but this all started back when I thought my life was stable. I'd been married to Adam, 51 at the time, for a decade, together for nearly 12 years. We weren't perfect, but we were real. Sunday mornings with coffee and jazz, unplanned road trips, late-night kitchen dance-offs. Our life was the kind people envied, simple, happy, full of inside jokes and shared dreams. But if you've ever watched a candle burn out, you'll understand what came next. It started slow. Date nights turned awkward. Adam, once glued to my side, now seemed permanently fused to his phone. I told myself it was just work stress, a bad quarter at the firm, maybe even a midlife funk. But deep down, that whisper of doubt started screaming. Then came the night. It was a Friday, and I decided to surprise him with dinner. Something romantic, something that could maybe stitch us back together. I went to his office, thinking I'd catch him just before he left, but he texted that he had to stay late. Heavy workload. I almost turned the car around. Almost. But curiosity is a dangerous friend. Instead of heading home, I waited. A half hour later, he walked out, no briefcase, no signs of stress. Just calm, confident, lying. I watched him get into his car and drive off, so I followed. I wish I hadn't. He pulled up to a trendy bar in the Arts District. I parked down the block, my stomach doing backflips. A woman joined him inside, and when she turned, my heart plummeted. It was my stepsister, Sabrina. The same Sabrina who used to compliment Adam's gym selfies and make jokes about how he deserved someone a little more polished. The same one who once told me I'd peaked in college. The one I hadn't really spoken to in years, unless forced by holiday events. They were holding hands, laughing, so comfortable it made me nauseous. I left, quietly, broken. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling like it could explain how my life unravelled while I wasn't looking. By morning I was a different person. I waited for Adam to leave for work, then I took his phone. Not to snoop, not to spiral, but to confirm. The evidence was there. Messages, photos, calendar invites. Even a shared playlist labelled for us. I documented everything. My hands were shaking, but my mind had never been clearer. I drove straight to my mum's. When I told her, she froze. She had practically raised Sabrina like her own, but once she saw the screenshots, the rage in her eyes was something I'll never forget. Her plan? Classic mum move. A family dinner. Let's show them who they messed with, she said, her jaw tight. So we hosted a small get-together. Friends, family, wine, laughter. A perfect little stage for what came next. I stood up to toast. Everyone smiled, expecting something sweet or funny. Instead, I connected my phone to the projector. Thank you all for being here, I started. I have something important to share. The room fell quiet as images began to flicker across the screen texts, selfies, love notes, conversations between Adam and Sabrina, dated while we were still married, gasps, silence, anger, confusion. My mother's face morphed from heartbroken to furious. My stepfather demanded answers. Sabrina just sat there, stunned. Adam looked like a man caught stealing in church. When the slideshow ended, I took a deep breath. I didn't show this to humiliate anyone, I said. I did it because I deserve better. And because you all deserve to know who you've been breaking bread with. I announced I was divorcing Adam. Sabrina could have him. In fact, I hoped they'd be very happy alone and away from me. The reaction was immediate. Adam bolted. Sabrina followed. My mum held me tight while I cried, not from heartbreak, but from relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I had been betrayed, and I had finally stopped pretending otherwise. The weeks that followed were rough. I filed for divorce, changed the locks, blocked Adam on everything. I didn't eat much. I cried more than I thought I had tears for, but slowly I began to piece myself back together. Then, one night, my stepdad walked into the room holding his phone like it was a live grenade. "Have you seen Sabrina's Facebook?" he asked. I hadn't. I opened it, and there it was. A photo of Sabrina and Adam smiling wide. The caption, "So excited to be engaged, to the love of my life engaged." To my ex-husband, they didn't even wait for the ink to dry. If betrayal had a face, it was staring back at me from that post. And if karma needed an assistant, well, I was about to volunteer. After that Facebook post, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, like I was still mid-dream, but the nightmare had bled into real life. Sabrina had always been bold in the worst ways, but this was next-level delusion. I had barely finalised the divorce when she started posting ring pics, tagging mutual family members, captioning things like, "When you know, you just know." Yeah, I knew exactly what kind of person she was now. But the real slap came a few days later. My stepdad got a call from her. She wanted to share some exciting news. He put her on speaker and I just sat there, frozen. She said it casually, like it was normal. "So Jerry and I are getting married this fall, and we'd really love for Natalie to come." It would mean so much to have her there, maybe even say a few words at the reception. I think my soul briefly left my body. Was this some twisted joke? I just blinked at the phone like it had personally insulted me. Sabrina kept going like she was talking about picking wedding colours, not parading my ex-husband around in a white tux. "We want to show the family we've moved on and that there's no bad blood. No bad blood." She acted like she borrowed a sweater without asking, not slept with my husband behind my back. I didn't say a word at first. My mum reached over and quietly took the phone. Her voice, calm but lethal. "Sabrina, you've done enough. Asking Natalie to bless this wedding is beyond selfish. You don't need her blessing, you need a conscience." Sabrina had the audacity to scoff. "It's not my fault things didn't work out between them. Jerry and I just connected." That's when I stood up and walked to the guest room, shut the door, and just sat in silence. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of hearing me cry again, but inside, I was boiling. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was performance. She wanted me there, smiling like none of this mattered, like my pain was just a footnote in their love story. And that's when the idea hit me. If she wanted a show, I could give her one. The next morning, I woke up different, determined, tired of being the one blindsided. I opened my laptop and started scrolling through old pictures, hers, mine, ours. Then I landed on something interesting. Ron, the ex Sabrina never got over. The one she dated for years, even tattooed his name on her ribcage in college. Their breakup had been messy. She cried for weeks, swore she'd never love again. I hadn't seen or heard from Ron in years. But social media is a hell of a tool when you're fueled by revenge and iced coffee. I found his profile. Still in the city. Single. Dog dad. Seemed normal. I sent a message. No fluff. Just facts. "Hey Ron, I'm Natalie. You dated Sabrina years ago. I'm her stepsister. You probably haven't heard, but she's marrying my now ex-husband. Thought you might be interested in being my +1 to their wedding." He replied within hours. At first, he thought it was a joke. I explained everything: the affair, the Facebook announcement, the wedding invite. I even told him about the speech request. His response? Damn. She always was dramatic. We talked more over the next few days. Turns out he didn't have lingering feelings, but he did still have the tattoo. Faded, but there. When I floated the idea again, this time more seriously, he paused. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Positive," I said. "I'm not here to ruin a wedding. I'm here to reclaim mine." That Friday, I told my mum and stepdad. My mum gave me the look, you know, that mix of concern and quiet support. My stepdad wasn't as convinced. He said it was playing dirty. But honestly, after everything, it didn't even scratch the surface. I didn't care about revenge for the sake of revenge. I wanted clarity, closure, a reminder to everyone watching that I wasn't just a passive character in their little soap opera. I was the main one. Always had been. The wedding came fast, too fast. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, not out of vanity, just checking in with myself. Was I okay? Not fully. But I was getting there. I chose a deep navy dress. Elegant, sharp, unapologetic. The kind of dress you wear when you're not the one being celebrated, but you damn well will be noticed. Ron picked me up. He looked good, polished, confident. Nothing flashy, just grounded. As we pulled up to the venue, he reached over and said, "You sure you want to do this?" I smiled. "I don't want to," I said. "I need to." We walked in together, hand in hand. Heads turned. Some whispered. Others stared too long. But I didn't care. I found our seat and waited. "Adam, sorry." Jerry spotted me first. His expression dropped. Panic. Then disbelief. He leaned over to someone, probably asking who Ron was. Then came Sabrina. She walked in with a smug little smile, floating down the aisle like royalty. She hadn't noticed us yet, but when she did, her smile flickered. And then it died completely. She stopped mid-step. I watched her mouth something like, "What the F?" before catching herself. Her eyes went from Ron to me. Then to our interlocked hands. The music played on. She didn't move. The guests started shifting, confused. My stepdad gave her a gentle nudge, but she didn't budge. Eventually she walked. But it wasn't the confident stroll she'd planned. It was stiff, like every step betrayed her pride. She locked eyes with me as she passed. I just smiled. No words, just presence. Ron leaned in. "Should we stick around for the vows?" I glanced toward the altar where Jerry was pretending not to sweat through his suit. "No," I said. "I think we've made our point." As we left, whispers followed us out, but I didn't feel petty. I felt powerful. They invited me into their fantasy like I was just background noise. But today, I reminded them I'm not furniture. I don't blend into wallpaper, I burn through it. I didn't expect it to unravel that quickly. We left the wedding before the vows, but apparently the story kept writing itself after we were gone. By the time I got home that night, I already had 3 missed calls from Jerry and 1 text from an unknown number that just said, "How could you?" I ignored them all. I didn't need to explain myself. Not after everything. Let them sit in that silence, the same silence I had to live in when I found out about their betrayal. My mom gave me a knowing look when I walked in. She didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. She just said, "You good?" I nodded. Better than I've been in months. The next day, my stepdad called me into the living room. He had a weird expression. Part disappointed dad, part, bewildered. Karen walked out, he said. What? She didn't go through with it. Left the whole thing. Dress, flowers, everything. Apparently, not long after I left with Ron, she cornered Jerry behind the venue and lost it. Full meltdown. Something about betrayal, disrespect, unresolved feelings. She accused him of letting this happen and claimed he never had her back. And Jerry? Well, he begged. Said none of it mattered, that they could still get married and forget the drama. She didn't buy it. She told him it was over and took off. Never came back to the altar. The wedding never happened. I won't lie, when I first heard it, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief, vindication, even pity, but mostly closure. Because while they were spinning in chaos, I was already moving forward. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine wasn't cold. It wasn't even served. It was simply lived, quietly, firmly. Over the next few weeks, Jerry tried to reach out again. A lot, long texts, voicemails, even an email. I made a mistake. Can we talk? I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't answer. I didn't block him either, not out of hope, but because I wanted him to know I saw it, that he was screaming into a void and I was just not there anymore. Sabrina, on the other hand, total radio silence. She disappeared off social media, probably embarrassed, maybe hiding. I don't know. I didn't care. Her chapter in my life was over. One evening, maybe 2 months after everything, I was walking through a local bookstore, something I hadn't done in years, and I realized I wasn't sad anymore. Not numb, not angry. Just okay. It hit me in the poetry aisle of all places. I picked up a thin book of verses, ran my fingers over the cover, and smiled. There was a time I would have sent them both a copy with a passive-aggressive post-it inside, but I was past that now. Let them live in the mess they made. I didn't need to stay there to prove anything. That was the lesson I didn't see coming. The real revenge wasn't walking into the wedding with her ex. It wasn't the look on her face or the whispers that followed us out. It was the fact that I came through it all whole. They thought they broke me, but really they cracked open a version of me that I didn't know existed, a version that wasn't afraid to choose peace over performance. The last time I saw Jerry, I didn't even plan it. I was at the farmer's market, standing in line for Honeycrisp apples. He walked up behind me like it was just another Sunday, like we were still us. He didn't say anything right away, just stood there awkwardly, then finally mumbled, "You look good." I turned, looked him in the eye, and gave him a polite smile. "Thanks," I said. "Hope you're doing okay." And that was it. No drama. No scene. Just me walking away with a bag of apples and a piece he'll probably never have. I went home, sliced one up, and sat on the porch with my mum. We watched the sky turn orange, her hand resting gently over mine. "You sure you don't regret it?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "No," I said. "I regret wasting tears on people who wouldn't have cried for me. But what I did, that was just truth." She nodded. "You didn't fight fire with fire." I smiled. "Nah, I just let it burn out." And that was the end of it. No grand finale, no viral moment. Just life, still going, still mine. Final reflection. Sometimes people mistake silence for weakness. But letting go? That's the loudest thing I ever did. I didn't get even. I got free. And honestly, that's better than any speech I could have given. Let them tell their version of the story. I'm living the one that matters.